Hi there. Today we'll be testing 7 different private browsers: Brave, Epic, Avast Secure Browser, Comodo Dragon, Waterfox, Iron, LibreWolf. We'll be comparing their interfaces and capabilities, as well as some interesting settings. We'll also test each browser to see just how private they really are. For this test, we'll need 2 different tools. The first is browserleaks.com, which offers a range of tests to evaluate the security and privacy of your web browser, including geolocation and fingerprinting. The second is PortMaster, which checks to see the kind of connections each browser is making. We'll not be considering Tor. Many people think that this is the best and most private browser, but this isn't really true. Tor browsers are used to get around censors and connect anonymously to the darknet using onion routing. Because of this, the browser works very slowly. We've divided the video into chapters, and the timecodes are in the description, so you can jump to whichever browser you'd like to hear about. This video was created by the Sumsub verification platform, but more about Sumsub in a bit. Let's start with Brave. Let's go to brave.com and download the installer. The installer is launched, and Brave downloads the missing components from the internet. At first launch, Brave asks to become our default browser and import settings from our existing browsers. The Brave interface looks a lot like Chrome because it's built on Chromium. Therefore, you won't spend much time getting used to it. Brave's source code is open and can be downloaded from GitHub. This is important, since you'll be able to take a close look at the code to see if there's anything dangerous. Now let's see what this browser can do. First things first, it asks if we'd like to block cookies and related consent notices, which is good news for privacy. Let's go to the settings by clicking the button on the upper right corner and choosing the settings menu. Here, you can set the look and feel of the browser and adjust your privacy level in the Shields tab. This is where you can disable certain browser functions to protect yourself from fingerprinting and tracking, such as auto-redirect tracking URLs, accelerated mobile pages, website scripts, and so on. It redirects and prevents your browser from being tracked for commercial purposes. Below, there's a tab that lets you set your privacy level when it comes to blocking trackers and ads. The standard setting is default. There's also an aggressive setting, as well as a disabled setting. This TSB lets us disable all scripts and fingerprinting and enable cookie blocking. So let's disable our scripts and go with the aggressive setting. If we click on content filtering, we'll get a list of filters which Brave can use to block ads and trackers. Let's click Show Full List, and we can see that just 10 filters are turned on by default. We can turn all of them on, or only those that we need. But keep in mind that the more filters you turn on, the more content that gets blocked, which means you might actually miss out on something useful. Usually, browsers store information about the social media sites you're logged into and share this information with basically anyone. To prevent this, open the Social Media Blocking tab. By default, it's set to allow Google, Twitter, Facebook, disable data sharing from LinkedIn. So if you want the HR department of one of Elon Musk's companies to reach out to you, consider enabling this function here. In the Search Engine tab, you can choose which search engines are used with Brave by default. Google likes to know a lot about its users and tracks their searches, the links they click on, and the sites they visit. To stay safe, you can opt for the DuckDuckGo search engine. So now let's check what BrowserLeaks says about Brave. Since all our scripts are turned off, including JavaScript, it can only determine our location and IP to a limited extent, but it cannot pinpoint it. Also, fingerprinting doesn't work. Needless to say, the internet without JavaScript is pretty useless, since most websites use it. Therefore, we're going to turn on scripts for our convenience, which means that Brave starts sharing information about your device. But in such cases, Brave has another great feature which other private browsers don't have. Let's click on the button in the upper right corner and select the new private window with Tor. A new window will open that's connected through the Tor network. Is this really Tor? Yeah, it is. Now, if we go to BrowserLeaks, it'll show us that our IP has changed. This allows us to hide our location without using a VPN. However, BrowserLeaks has determined that our new IP belongs to a Tor node, and certain sites prevent access to Tor users, which you should keep in mind. Great. Now let's see the kinds of connections Brave makes when surfing the web. For this, we'll use the free PortMaster program. Brave regularly communicates with Brave.com refresh servers and uses its own DNS servers for handling requests, in addition to whichever DNS servers are enabled in the OS settings. There are no other suspicious signs in the requests sent by Brave. PortMasters shows us that Brave uses a built-in 32-bit engine, Tor 0.4.7.13, to navigate Tor networks, which also works in a 64-bit system. This is the latest Tor version, This means that it has all the latest updates and features to offer a sufficient level of protection. So, in sum, what can we say about Brave? It offers a high level of privacy and works pretty quickly. However, private windows with Tor takes longer to load because the browser redirects through the Tor network. Epic. Let's check out the Epic browser by Hidden Reflex, an Indian company. We'll download it from the website and install. This browser is also based on Chromium, but is non-open source, which means that nobody knows what's inside, except for Epic's developers. Epic does not have built-in Tor capabilities, but it does have something that its developers call encrypted VPN. In reality, this is just a regular old proxy, which is built into Opera. It can change your IP address, but websites will still know your actual location. By default, Epic blocks cookies and tracking, preventing sites from tracking sensitive browser parameters and collecting data for ad purposes. So now let's hop on browserleaks.com to see what the verdict is on Epic. Since BrowserLeaks can see our IP and location, we can see that JavaScript is turned on by default. If we click on the umbrella-shaped button to the right of the search bar, we can turn on the adblock and encrypted proxy modes. By default, these are off. We'll turn them on. An interesting feature of Epic is that it allows you to set website-specific privacy settings. So just load a site, click the umbrella button, and go to View Site Settings. So what do we see here? We can block the site from seeing our location, or whether our device has a camera, mic, or other sensors. We can turn JavaScript, image loading, and ads on and off. This is really useful, since sometimes we need to enable these things to get authenticated or use a website properly. Okay, we'll leave encrypted proxy on, turn off geo-positioning, and see what BrowserLeaks can find. Great! We can see that our IP has changed, and BrowserLeaks hasn't been able to determine our location. Now we're in Ashburn, Virginia, where we can visit Ashburn Park. Do you think we're allowed to feed the squirrels here? To change the main settings in Epic, we click on the button in the right side of the instrument panel and head to Settings, just like in Chrome. All the settings are laid out here, just like they are in Chrome. For example, if we want to adjust our cookie settings, clear browsing history, or adjust the personal data that the browser shares with sites on the web, we can use the Security and Privacy menu. In the Site Settings menu, we can turn off geolocation for all sites at once. Now we'll use PortMaster to see the kind of connections that Epic establishes. The browser actively uses the epicbrowser.com service domain, which belongs to its developers. If we look at Wireshark, we can see that Epic is sending certain data to developers. Most likely, the browser is collecting some telemetry to send to Hidden Reflex. Epic has one more interesting feature, which is pro mode as soon as you open the browser. The Epic Video Downloader. So if you're a music and video lover, you can supposedly download the content you want directly onto your computer. Let's open the video downloader and copy the URL. Epic fail. Okay, so maybe Google is doing a good job protecting their content. So let's try the same on Vimeo. Oh, another epic fail. Let's check our browser settings just in case. Proxy is off, JavaScript is on. Let's try to download another video on YouTube. Epic fail once again. It goes without saying that video downloaders can be very useful, but this one doesn't seem to work on the most popular video hosting platforms. In short, Epic protects you from tracking and ads, and its encrypted proxy is useful for increasing privacy. However, if you're a bit paranoid, its non-open source code may be cause for worry. Avast Secure Browser. Avast software is known for its antivirus program, Avast. This same company launched its own browser in 2016. At first, it was called SafeZone and was part of Avast's paid antivirus program. Eventually, this browser could be downloaded separately for free. So, let's download it and install it. The installer is downloading the browser's components, and it seems like it's trying to download half the internet. The Avast browser is also built on Chromium and is non-open source. The interface will be familiar to anyone who uses Chrome. However, unlike Chrome, the Avast browser has a few extra buttons. This includes the Privacy Guard, which allows you to prevent ads and tracking on a given website. The Plugin Extensions button is the same as in regular Chrome. The Security and Privacy Center lets you configure the browser's privacy settings. Here, you can toggle the Privacy Guard and the Web Shield, which is Avast's web antivirus, which protects users from fake and/or phishing sites. You can also shut off the Password Manager, which saves all logins and passwords in encrypted format and lets you sign in to different websites with one click. By default, the privacy guard is set to basic blocking mode, but we want some more privacy. So we'll click on the privacy guard button and head to the privacy guard settings. We'll set it to strict blocking, to completely block fingerprinting, tracking, ads, and monitoring from social media platforms. Oops. The browser tells us that the Avast team really needs to make some money, so they'll have to let certain ads and tracking from their partners slip by. So, Avast is secure up until the moment they can make a buck off your privacy. Just business, nothing personal, mate. The Avast browser has a protected VPN, or, in other words, the same kind of proxy that's in Epic. It's disabled by default, but let's try turning it on. Oops, this is a paid feature, but they're offering us a 30-day free trial. Should we give it a try? Oops, they're asking us to add our bank card details or PayPal info. I thought we were talking about privacy here. Okay, let's move on to the Security and Privacy Center and open a private tab. Now let's open browser leaks in this tab. Overall, there are no surprises here. The browser sends the same amount of data that another would, with JavaScript turned on. The IP address is recognized, and geolocation can be blocked in a window that appears. If we look at traffic on the Avast secure browser in PortMaster, we'll see that it interacts with Avast servers. So it looks like the browser is collecting some stats. In short, the Avast secure browser has the same functions as other free private browsers, but charges money for some of them. Comodo Dragon. Here's another browser from an antivirus provider. This time, it's Comodo Group. This company makes 4 versions of its browser. Comodo Dragon, which is based on Chrome in either 32 or 64-bit versions, and Ice Comodo Dragon, which is based on Firefox, also in either 32 or 64-bit versions. Let's download and install the 64-bit Comodo Dragon browser, which is also based on Chromium. Comodo Dragon uses its own secure DNS servers, which can be used instead of the ones used by internet providers. During the installation process, you can choose how you use this feature. For instance, by selecting Comodo's secure DNS servers for all connections on your computer, or just in this browser only. The Comodo Dragon interface looks a lot like Chrome, and the settings are practically the same. If you go to websites using the HTTPS protocol, the browser performs an extra check of their SSL certificates using an in-house service and warns the user if they're insufficiently reliable. In addition, Comodo has an antivirus program built in, which checks websites for malicious code. If we open Comodo in Browser Leaks, we'll see that the browser blocks our precise geolocation by default. PortMaster can see that the browser communicates with Comodo's domains and AdGuard servers, which have filters that are likely used to block ads. Despite the fact the browser is based on Chromium, Comodo's course code is non-open source. Comodo Dragon doesn't send any info to Google servers. However, it does monitor user behavior and sends it to its own services, which is stated in its licensing agreement. The agreement also states that users' IP addresses are only considered confidential information in the state of California. Therefore, the browser maintains logs that track users identified via cookie files or IP addresses outside of California. The agreement also states that Comodo can share data with affiliated companies and partners. Comodo Dragon blocks ads, tracking, and offers built-in antivirus protection. However, it comes with a non-open source code, which was written by a for-profit company, so nobody truly knows what's under the hood. Waterfox. Unlike all the other browsers we've tested, Waterfox isn't based on Chromium. It's based on Firefox, so this might be a good option for someone who's used to Firefox. In the Windows version, this browser comes with a 64-bit architecture. Let's download and install it. On the surface, this browser looks just like Firefox, with no significant UX differences. The settings window in Waterfox is exactly the same as Firefox, except for there being a Look and Feel tab instead of a More from Mozilla tab. The most interesting tab for us is Privacy and Security. This one also doesn't look different from what's on Firefox, with all the settings where you'd expect them, and there are no unique settings or features when it comes to privacy. The source code for Waterfox can be found on GitHub. In 2019, Waterfox was acquired by the ad agency System1. The project has 4,700 contributors, which is quite a lot. However, in 2011, this project was developed by just one person, Alex Kontos, who was 16 at the time. Browser Leaks returns the same result for Waterfox that it did for regular Firefox. Notably, it recognizes this browser as Firefox 102.0, when the most up-to-date version is 111.0. This shows that the version on which Waterfox is based is a bit outdated, which can come with some open vulnerabilities. The developers claim that Waterfox can block trackers and ads on websites. But if you look at it on PortMaster, we'll see that it makes numerous connections with Google, which Waterfox doesn't block in full by default. Only certain suspicious Google connections are blocked. It's strange to think that a browser owned by an ad company would block ads, right? Since Waterfox is based on Firefox, you can add any Mozilla plugins you like, including those which increase privacy, block ads, or enable proxies, but you can do all the same in regular Firefox. Iron. This browser is from German firm SRware and is based on Chromium. For Windows, there are both 32 and 64-bit versions. The installer is analogous to Google Chrome, and the interface is available in multiple languages besides English. Iron looks just like Chrome without any notable differences in the interface. The project was started in 2008 as an attempt to build an alternative to Chrome that doesn't share your telemetry and other data with Google. The current version of Iron also has a built-in ad blocker. A key difference from Chrome is that it doesn't have the Google updater. On the one hand, this saves on traffic and resources. On the other, it means there are no automated updates. They need to be downloaded and installed by hand. Iron uses a secure DNS resolver, its own secure DNS servers, which filters ads and dangerous content. The browser reveals users' IP and location by default. In the settings panel, there is an anonymous VPN link, which sends us to the SRware website, but using this feature isn't free. After installing Iron, an Iron config and backup icon winds up on the desktop. To use these functions, you need to close all previously opened Iron windows. So, let's launch the configurator. The Enable Extended Privacy flag blocks certain requests made to websites. For instance, content refreshes. On the one hand, this prevents the transfer of confidential information. On the other, the websites may not work properly with this function enabled. The Backup and Restore tabs allow us to save and restore our browser settings if needed. The User Agent tab allows you to change how this browser appears to other sites on the web. For instance, you can change the user agent to Safari or several other browsers. Plus, in just a click of a button, you can create an icon with the user agent you set. The Import from Chrome tab lets you import all your data, form values, history, passwords, if you used Chrome before. In PortMaster, Iron appears as Chrome. We can see that certain websites send requests to analytics and statistics servers, but Iron blocks them. Overall, this browser leaves a good impression. It works fast and uses secure DNS to filter ads and tracking. Its drawbacks include being non-open source and having no built-in VPN. Since the browser is built on Chromium, you can download free plugins from the Chrome Web Store, including those that let you use free proxies. LibreWolf. LibreWolf was built by independent developers seeking to create a version of Firefox that focuses on privacy. This is a relatively new offering and has been growing in popularity lately. This browser is open source and there's a link to the source code on the LibreWolf website. The website also offers a 64-bit version for Windows with a standard installer and portable app in a zip archive. The installation gave us no problems. It went just like downloading Firefox would. To those who use Firefox, LibreWolf should look familiar. The first thing you'll notice is that the browser uses DuckDuckGo by default, but you can change this in the settings to go somewhere else, like Cerex or Quant. The browser settings are overall the same as in Firefox, with no unique features. If we believe what LibreWolf.net says, the browser is designed to increase protection against tracking and fingerprinting techniques, while also including a few security improvements. It also blocks data collection and other annoyances. It also claims that it doesn't collect telemetry and uses a uBlock Origin plugin to block ads and filter content. This same plugin works with Firefox. For safety, LibreWolf disables standard password managers, but you can use Firefox-based plugins for this instead. The browser also enables so-called enhanced tracking protection, which blocks side scripts that weren't prevented by uBlock Origin. Since LibreWolf uses enhanced security settings, it can interfere with authentication at certain websites, requiring repeat sign-ins. To prevent this, for instance, to stay logged into Facebook, you'd need to add the websites to your exceptions in the settings. Browser leaks shows that this website is safer than Firefox, in part due to the fact that WebGL support is turned off. WebGL is a JavaScript interface for 3D graphics, which allows certain websites to identify the graphics card in your device. The browser disables exact geolocation and uses 11 content filters to block trackers and ads. It also uses canvas protection, which prevents fingerprinting by analyzing how graphics appear in the browser. PortMaster shows that LibreWolf doesn't have any suspicious connections. There are outgoing connections, but they use the uBlock Origin plugin to obtain content filters and check digital website certificates. What's more, The FAQs on the developer's website say that LibreWolf also makes an occasional connection to check whether you have received push notifications from websites you have subscribed to. Overall, we can say that this browser left us with a positive impression. It has a familiar and easy-to-use interface that works pretty quickly. Now it's time for our verdict. In our opinion, Brave takes the cake. It's open source, easy to use, safe, and has built-in Tor. LibreWolf comes second. This one is also open source, and its capabilities can be expanded with plugins. This is a great choice for anyone who's used to Firefox. Epic and Iron are tied for third place. These are commercial products that are non-open source. However, they're pretty fast and have a lot of settings. Also, Epic has a content downloader, but it doesn't work on YouTube. The rest of the private browsers we evaluated, including those built by antivirus software developers, will rank at the bottom. This doesn't mean that they're bad, necessarily. However, they're missing certain useful features that the other browsers have, or they're charging for features that the others don't charge for.
Private browsers often have functionality that will help detect any kind of phishing attempts on your personal information, be it login credentials or credit card information. Interestingly though, rarely does this functionality cover any kind of transactional fraud monitoring. Hi, I'm Lucas from Sumsub, and we are an all-in-one verification solution that secures every stage of the user lifecycle from beginning to end. Businesses all over the world, as you can probably presume, process thousands, hundreds of thousands of transactions, sometimes daily. Obviously, within these transactions, there's a huge potential for risky or fraudulent transactions, things of money laundering nature, or any kind of identity fraud that might be going on with these transactions. So it's incredibly important to stay up to date and monitor these transactions. Important, but not easy. And the punishment for missing these can be quite severe, whether through reputational damage, financial, or even closure of business. It's for this reason, in fact, that businesses do take on third-party providers to give them transaction monitoring and security. Sumsub does provide this service too. And Sumsub's solution is able to track all kinds of suspicious activity, send out alerts, react quickly to alerts, have our own rules generation ability, and all of this in a very, very simple, user-friendly, non-code-based UX design. To get started, businesses can either go with one of our ready-to-use risk scenarios and configure them to their liking, or even dig a little deeper into our rules-based engines and come up with your own custom rules from scratch using the Sumsub interface. The good thing here is that at the end of the day, you're going to be provided with a thorough report on all transactions and users, which can be shared with auditors. You can book a demo by clicking a link in the description. That's all for now. Keep safe out there in the online digital jungle, and I hope to see you soon.